Good morning, and welcome to our lecture on creativity, problem-solving, and learning in negotiation politics within Canada's unique landscape. Canada's multicultural society, with 22% visible minorities, and its federal structure create a complex negotiation environment where innovative thinking and cultural sensitivity are critical. Today, we'll explore strategies like expanding the pie, mental models, contingent contracts, cultural sensitivity, and ethical considerations, applying them to case studies like environmental protection and healthcare agreements. Our goal is to equip you with skills to navigate Canada's diverse political, business, and cultural contexts, fostering collaborative and sustainable outcomes. Creativity transforms negotiations by moving beyond zero-sum thinking, as seen in interprovincial trade deals like the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement. Problem-solving and learning enhance adaptability, crucial in Indigenous land claims where cultural respect drives solutions. Canada's collaborative ethos, rooted in the Multiculturalism Act, demands negotiators who bridge diverse interests through innovative and ethical approaches. By the end, you'll understand how to apply creative strategies in Canada's government, business, and environmental negotiations, ensuring equitable outcomes. Let's start by exploring how creativity drives win-win agreements in Canada's diverse negotiation landscape. Let's begin by exploring how creativity transforms negotiations in Canada, where diverse interests demand innovative solutions, per Thompson, 2014. Win-win agreements require moving beyond fixed pie perceptions, which assume limited resources, to expanding the pie through creative value creation. In the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement, provinces reframed regulatory differences as opportunities for collaboration, boosting economic growth. Fixed pie thinking blocks creativity, as seen when provinces resisted harmonization due to regional priorities. Finding differences, like Quebec's cultural protections versus Alberta's resource focus, allows collaborative solutions, such as tailored trade exemptions. Reframing discussions to focus on shared goals, like economic prosperity, unlocks options, fostering mutual gains. Canada's multicultural society, with 20% foreign-born residents, demands cultural intelligence to identify collaborative opportunities across diverse stakeholders. For students, mastering creative negotiation is key. Consider a Toronto business deal. Reframing competitive bids as joint ventures expands value, reflecting Canada's cooperative culture. Creativity aligns with the Multiculturalism Act's inclusivity, ensuring equitable outcomes. Challenges include entrenched zero-sum thinking, but reframing mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll examine mental models, exploring how they shape creative approaches in Canada's diverse political and cultural landscape. Following creativity, let's explore mental models, the psychological lenses shaping negotiation approaches in Canada, per Nadler et al., 2003. Haggling, a common but limited approach, focuses on competitive bargaining, often seen in small-scale business deals but less effective in Canada's collaborative culture. Cost-benefit analysis, rational and data-driven, suits policy negotiations, like federal-provincial healthcare talks, where metrics guide decisions. Game playing, overly competitive, risks alienating stakeholders, as seen in early trade disputes. Partnership models, emphasizing long-term relations, thrive in Canada's interconnected economy, such as the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement, where provinces built trust through shared goals. Problem-solving, inherently collaborative, is ideal for Indigenous land claims, fostering equitable solutions, per Thompson, 2014. Canada's multicultural society, with 22% visible minorities, demands adaptive mental models. For students, mastering these models is essential. Consider a negotiation in British Columbia's resource sector. A problem-solving approach ensures equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's cooperative ethos. Challenges include competitive mindsets, but collaboration mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore contingent contracts, examining their role in Canadian negotiations. Building on mental models, let's examine contingent contracts in Canadian negotiations, per Bazerman and Gillespie, 1999. Contingent contracts manage uncertainty by tying terms to future outcomes, critical in Canada's resource-based economy, like oil price fluctuations in Alberta. Aligning interests with performance, such as linking payments to environmental compliance in mining deals, ensures fairness. Incorporating flexible terms, like adjustable royalties, fosters adaptability. Building trust through shared risk, where both parties bear uncertainty, strengthens relationships, as in Indigenous land agreements. Enhancing long-term collaboration, contingent contracts align with Canada's cooperative ethos, per the Multiculturalism Act. With diverse stakeholders, these contracts bridge differing priorities. For students, mastering contingent contracts is key. Consider a negotiation in Saskatchewan's mining sector. Flexible terms and shared risk ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's collaborative culture. Challenges include predicting outcomes, but data-driven terms mitigate risks. As we transition, we'll explore problem-solving strategies, examining their role in Canadian negotiations. Following contingent contracts, let's explore problem-solving strategies in Canadian negotiations, per Thompson, 2014. Identifying mutual interests, like economic growth and trade talks, fosters collaboration, as in the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement. Collaborative brainstorming, engaging diverse stakeholders, generates innovative solutions, critical in Canada's multicultural society with 22% visible minorities. Leveraging data-driven solutions, such as economic impact studies, ensures rational outcomes, as in healthcare negotiations. Incorporating cultural sensitivity, respecting Indigenous or Quebec's norms, builds trust, per the Multiculturalism Act. Fostering win-win outcomes, like balanced trade exemptions, reflects Canada's cooperative ethos. These strategies enhance adaptability in complex contexts, like environmental talks. For students, mastering problem-solving is essential. Consider a negotiation in Ontario's tech sector. Collaborative brainstorming and cultural sensitivity ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's inclusive culture. Challenges include conflicting interests, but mutual focus mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore cultural sensitivity in negotiations, examining its role in Canada. Continuing our discussion, let's examine cultural sensitivity in Canadian negotiations, per Thompson, 2014. Respecting bilingual norms, like French-English dynamics in Quebec, fosters trust, critical in federal-provincial talks. Adapting to Indigenous protocols, such as storytelling in land claims, ensures respect, aligning with the 7 generations principle. Acknowledging regional differences, like Atlantic Canada's community focus versus Alberta's resource priorities, tailors strategies. Building trust through inclusivity, engaging diverse voices, reflects Canada's 22% visible minority population. Ensuring equitable representation, like including Indigenous stakeholders, aligns with the Multiculturalism Act. Canada's collaborative ethos demands cultural sensitivity for effective outcomes. For students, mastering this is key. Consider a negotiation in Montreal. Respecting bilingual and Indigenous norms ensures equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's inclusive culture. Challenges include cultural misunderstandings, but inclusivity mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore learning in negotiations, examining how it enhances adaptability in Canada. Following cultural sensitivity, let's explore learning in Canadian negotiations, per Nadler et al., 2003. Adapting through feedback loops, like post-negotiation reviews, enhances strategies, as in interprovincial trade talks. Reflecting on past negotiations, such as lessons from the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement, informs future approaches. Incorporating stakeholder insights, like Indigenous perspectives in land claims, ensures relevance, per the Multiculturalism Act. Building adaptive strategies, adjusting to new data, fosters resilience in Canada's dynamic economy. Fostering continuous improvement, through iterative learning, aligns with Canada's collaborative ethos. With 20% foreign-born residents, learning from diverse perspectives is critical. For students, mastering learning is essential. Consider a negotiation in British Columbia's resource sector. Feedback loops and stakeholder insights ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's adaptive culture. Challenges include resistance to change, but reflection mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore negotiation in environmental contexts, examining creative solutions. Building on learning, let's examine negotiation in environmental contexts in Canada, per Thompson, 2014. Balancing economic and ecological goals, as in pipeline negotiations, requires creative compromises, like the 2019 Trans Mountain Agreement. Engaging diverse stakeholders, including Indigenous and environmental groups, ensures inclusivity, per the Multiculturalism Act. Using data-driven compromises, like environmental impact assessments, fosters rational solutions. Fostering sustainable outcomes, such as long-term conservation plans, aligns with Canada's environmental ethos. Incorporating Indigenous perspectives, like the 7 Generations Principle, builds trust, critical in land use talks. Canada's diverse society demands culturally sensitive environmental negotiations. For students, mastering this is key. Consider a negotiation in Alberta's oil sector. Stakeholder engagement and data-driven solutions ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's reconciliation goals. Challenges include conflicting priorities, but collaboration mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore negotiation in healthcare contexts, examining collaborative approaches. Following environmental contexts, let's examine negotiation in healthcare contexts in Canada, per Thompson, 2014. Addressing funding and access issues, like those in the Canada Health Transfer talks, requires balancing federal and provincial priorities. Engaging stakeholders, such as provinces and healthcare providers, ensures inclusivity, per the Multiculturalism Act. Using evidence-based solutions, like health outcome data, fosters rational compromises, critical in Canada's public system. Ensuring equitable healthcare delivery, especially for rural and Indigenous communities, aligns with Canada's fairness ethos. Fostering long-term agreements, through ongoing consultations, builds stability. With 22% visible minorities, cultural sensitivity is key in healthcare talks. For students, mastering healthcare negotiations is essential. Consider a negotiation in Manitoba. Evidence-based solutions and stakeholder engagement ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's collaborative culture. Challenges include jurisdictional disputes, but data-driven approaches mitigate risks. As we transition, we'll explore negotiation in interprovincial trade, examining creative strategies. Continuing our discussion, let's examine negotiation in interprovincial trade in Canada, per Thompson, 2014. Harmonizing regulatory differences, as in the 2017 Canadian Free Trade Agreement, fosters economic collaboration across provinces. Addressing regional priorities, like Quebec's cultural protections or Alberta's resource focus, requires creative solutions, such as tailored exemptions. Using creative trade exemptions expands the pie, ensuring mutual gains. Ensuring equitable economic growth, through balanced policies, aligns with Canada's cooperative ethos, per the Multiculturalism Act. With diverse regional economies, cultural sensitivity is critical in trade talks. For students, mastering trade negotiations is key. Consider a negotiation between Ontario and Quebec. Creative exemptions and regional focus ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's collaborative culture. Challenges include regional resistance, but creative reframing mitigates risks. As we transition, we'll explore negotiation in labor contexts, examining collaborative agreements. Following interprovincial trade, let's examine negotiation in labor contexts, critical in Canada's unionized workforce, per Thomson, 2014. Addressing worker concerns, like job security in the 2016 Canada Post dispute, builds trust through empathy. Promoting fair wages and conditions, as in education sector talks, ensures equity, aligning with Canada's fairness ethos. Using mediation for disputes, like neutral facilitators in public sector negotiations, fosters collaboration, per Nadler et al., 2003. Fostering collaborative agreements, such as benefit improvements for scheduling flexibility, expands the pie. Ensuring long-term stability through ongoing dialogue reduces conflict risks. Canada's diverse workforce, with 20% foreign-born workers, demands cultural sensitivity in labor talks. For students, mastering labor negotiations is essential. Consider a dispute in Ontario's healthcare sector. Mediation and fair conditions ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's labor ethos. Challenges include economic pressures, but creative solutions mitigate risks. As we transition, we'll explore negotiation in community contexts, examining inclusive solutions. Continuing our exploration, let's examine negotiation in community contexts, critical in Canada's diverse society, per Thomson, 2014. Engaging diverse community voices, like Indigenous and immigrant groups in urban planning talks, ensures inclusivity, as in Toronto's community development projects. Addressing local priorities, such as housing in Vancouver, builds trust through relevance. Fostering inclusive solutions, like community benefit agreements, ensures equitable outcomes, per the Multiculturalism Act. Building trust through transparency, such as open consultations, fosters collaboration. Ensuring sustainable community outcomes, like long-term infrastructure plans, aligns with Canada's inclusive ethos. With 22% visible minorities, Canada's communities demand cultural sensitivity in negotiations. For students, mastering community negotiations is key. Consider a negotiation in Montreal's diverse neighborhoods. Inclusive solutions and transparency ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's cooperative culture. Challenges include competing priorities, but collaborative approaches mitigate risks. As we transition, we'll explore Case Study 1, an environmental protection agreement, applying these concepts. Let's apply our concepts to a case study on an environmental protection agreement in Canada, per Thomson, 2014. The issue involved balancing resource development, like a pipeline, with conservation goals, engaging Indigenous, corporate, and government stakeholders. Actions included collaborative negotiations, using data-driven compromises like environmental impact assessments, and incorporating Indigenous protocols, per the Multiculturalism Act. Cultural sensitivity, respecting the 7 generations principle, built trust. Transparency, through open data sharing, ensured stakeholder alignment. The outcome was a balanced agreement, fostering sustainable development. Creative problem-solving expanded the pie, aligning economic and ecological goals. Challenges included conflicting interests, but collaborative approaches mitigated risks. For students, this case highlights creativity and sensitivity. Consider a similar negotiation in British Columbia. Stakeholder collaboration and transparency ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's environmental ethos. As we transition, we'll explore a healthcare agreement case, examining collaborative strategies. Following the environmental case, let's examine a healthcare agreement case in Canada, per Thompson, 2014. The issue involved federal-provincial funding disputes, like those over the Canada Health Transfer, requiring balance between jurisdictions. Actions included data-driven collaborative negotiations, using health outcome metrics to guide compromises, and engaging diverse stakeholders, per the Multiculturalism Act. Evidence-based solutions, like rural access plans, ensured equity. Building trust through inclusivity, including Indigenous voices, fostered collaboration. The outcome was an equitable funding agreement, enhancing healthcare delivery. Creative problem-solving, like flexible funding models, expanded the pie. Challenges included jurisdictional tensions, but data-driven approaches mitigated risks. For students, this case underscores collaborative strategies. Consider a similar negotiation in Manitoba. Evidence-based solutions and inclusivity ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's public health ethos. As we transition, we'll explore ethical considerations, examining their role in Canadian negotiations. Continuing our discussion, let's examine ethical considerations in Canadian negotiations, per Thompson, 2014. Ensuring transparency and fairness, like open data sharing in trade talks, builds trust, critical in Canada's collaborative culture. Respecting cultural and legal norms, such as Indigenous protocols and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, ensures inclusivity, per the Multiculturalism Act. Promoting equitable outcomes, like balanced trade exemptions, aligns with Canada's fairness ethos. Balancing short- and long-term goals, such as economic growth versus sustainability, fosters stability. Fostering trust and integrity, through consistent ethics, enhances reputation. With 22% visible minorities, Canada demands ethical negotiations. For students, mastering ethics is essential. Consider a negotiation in Ontario's tech sector. Transparency and cultural respect ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's inclusive standards. Challenges include balancing transparency with strategy, but legal frameworks mitigate risks. As we transition, we'll review our references, providing resources for mastering negotiation. To conclude, let's review the references informing our exploration of creativity, problem-solving, and learning in Canadian negotiations. Bazerman and Gillespie, 1999, in Betting on the Future highlight contingent contracts, critical for managing uncertainty in resource and business negotiations. Nadler, Thompson, and Van Boven, 2003, in Learning Negotiation Skills explore knowledge creation, guiding skill development in Canada's collaborative context. Thompson, 2014, In the Mind and Heart of the Negotiator provides a framework for creative and ethical negotiation, applicable to interprovincial and Indigenous settings. For students, these sources offer a foundation for navigating Canada's negotiation landscape. Explore them to craft win-win agreements, adapt to cultural contexts, and uphold ethical standards. Consider a negotiation in Vancouver's tech sector. Creative strategies and ethical principles ensure equitable outcomes, reflecting Canada's multicultural ethos. This lecture equips you with tools for collaboration and sustainability in government, business, and community contexts. Thank you for your attention.